everyone. Welcome to the second episode of RiskRadar, where we discuss a topic of our community that was highly focused on the previous month. So Boris, as you know, last month we have focused greatly on geopolitical risk, and I think the current state of the world is a big reason why there's a big focus towards geopolitical risk, and it's increasing in the past month or even actually in the year compared to before. So I guess it's best that today we tackle this topic, not only from, a governmental or governance point of view, but also for businesses.
Absolutely, yeah. This geopolitical risks came very vividly in our agenda with war in Ukraine about 1.5 years ago. And now there are a lot of tensions between China and the United States on geopolitical front. And as a result, we see many companies trying to change their policy, and specifically on raw materials, and also in high technology company. They have some prohibition to sell to China and some other measurement. So we want to discuss these topics. And in addition to that, we have some good examples. We have an interview in our risk management show podcast in the last few weeks. We have an interview with Brian Zavada from Risk Connect about geopolitical risk, and also we had we set up a new course on our Global Risk Academy platform, also about geopolitical risks. Courses from Derek Leatherdale, and you are welcome to check it out. He is high professional with a lot of experience. So we will discuss our latest episodes and also our own observation.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you for that summary as well. So how do you see geopolitical risk impacting business in terms of, their strategy? Of course, you shortly mentioned, as well as, when it comes to maybe innovation or their bottom line performance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. So I think geopolitical risks have a significant impact on business across various dimensions. As I mentioned, firstly, in terms of business strategy, the geopolitical risk can disrupt supply chains, create trade barriers, or introduce regulatory complexities, requiring organizations to reassess and adapt their strategy and the plans accordingly. For example, here in the Netherlands, we have a large chip company, ASML, that Americans ask them not to sell to China because they don't want China to have an advanced chip to produce electronic with advanced chips and military equipment. So this is one small example. Other examples, companies trying to secure their supply chain, raw materials, and we see in lithium space and copper space that some countries like Chile, they want to nationalize their their mining industry, and it creates a lot of friction. So of course, organization must stay vigilant and agile to navigate these geopolitical obstacles. And finally, geopolitical risks can directly impact a company's bottom line and performance through market volatility, currency fluctuations, or political instability. Of course, we know, for example, in Argentina is having a lot of issues because of inflation. Also, Turkey had recently re-elected president for third term, and currency is fluctuating a lot. So we need to, company operating, for example, in Turkey or in Argentina, they need to adopt some measurement, and this is what we want to discuss in our episode today.
Indeed. And also, because you also mentioned with the situation with Chile, for example, with the mining industry and everything, I think also one topic that comes up a lot is ESG. Often lately, when there's a movement towards sustainability, but then due to war, for example, there were also a lot of issues with energy pricing or energy in general as well. So how do you, observe in a way geopolitics and ESG factors, and how, considering also like this is another factor like ESG, geopolitics, third party vendors and everything, how should organizations be navigating through this, interconnecting fields?
Yeah, of course, the ESG became a very influential factor, and they all interconnected. So, for example, geopolitical events can have environmental consequences, such as disputes over natural resources or climate change agreements. So, for example, I was in South America a few years ago in this Chile-Bolivia border, and I knew that the Bolivians have all these issues with that, all this mining operated by Chile, because in the past it was in Bolivia. So this kind of disputes over natural resources. But from ESG perspective, yes, we have to navigate these interconnections effectively. And the organization should incorporate geopolitical analysis into their ESG assessment. For example, they have to identify potential risks and develop robust mitigation strategies. Because by understanding the geopolitical context, organizations can align their sustainability efforts with the specific challenges and opportunities presented by geodynamics. For example, we knew that a few years ago, this was a major topic about diamonds that was mined in Africa, and so they created a certificate, good diamonds and bad diamonds. So this is also kind of geopolitics and ESG interconnections.
Thank you for sharing that as well, since I'm hearing actually a lot of things that, organizations, companies should be looking into. I'm actually wondering, can you give some examples on maybe some common obstacles they might face or currently already facing regarding managing geopolitical risk, and maybe some examples on how these can be successfully overcome? What would maybe some successful or like efficient approaches could be? How does risk management essentially play a role on this?
Yeah, of course. So managing geopolitical risk effectively can be challenging for several reasons. For example, firstly, geopolitical risks are inherently complex and dynamic, and making it difficult to anticipate and respond accurately. And secondly, for example, organizations may face limited access to timely and reliable information, so hindering their ability to make informed decisions. And additionally, there are some cultural and linguistic barriers that pose challenges when operating in different regions. To overcome these obstacles, firms have to establish some dedicated geopolitical risk management teams, invest in comprehensive risk intelligence capabilities, and foster a cross-functional collaboration. So, for example, building partnership with local experts and leveraging external advisory services can also enhance this understanding and enable proactive risk mitigation. For example, if I know specific, I know that, for example, a company like Kazakhstan, they have a lot of mining resources, and they have a competing from Western companies and from Chinese company. And I saw a recent TV program that local people complaining that Chinese companies don't employ local people. They bring all team from China. They do mining, they do everything, and then they put resources out, and then so nobody is kind of profiting for this. Maybe some governments get bribes, but local people don't get involved. Even so, there are some people that are educated and that can work on mines and other projects.
Thank you for sharing that as well. So far we really talked about, from a company's perspective, of course, a business's perspective, but of course, a business also involves external stakeholders like, investors, as well as governments and regulators. So what are the views of, these external stakeholders when it comes to geopolitical risk, and how does their view also maybe have an impact on the corporate's exposure?
Yeah, of course. External stakeholders, including investors, governments, and regulators, are increasingly recognizing the significance of geopolitical risk and the impact on the corporate bottom line and exposures. So investors are incorporating geopolitical risk already because this is kind of their main job to make money, and they always work to analyze risk in their investment decision making, seeking companies that demonstrate awareness and effective management of these risks, specifically, for example, in mining industries, and also companies that do outsourcing. They have to provide kind of different supply chain, not only relate to specific countries or no specific region. And the governments and the regulators are tightening oversight and imposing more stricter compliance requirements to address geopolitical risk, and particularly in areas such as trade, data privacy, and national security. As I said, for example, chip companies are prohibited to sell to China, for example, by United States law, even companies from the Netherlands and Japan, I think. And so this is evolving perspectives highlight the growing importance of transparent and robust geopolitical risk management for business, as it can directly influence stakeholder trust and regulatory compliance and long-term sustainability.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that as well. I think you actually mentioned a very crucial part of geopolitical risk management, which also involves, third-party vendor management when it comes to supply chain, but also, as you mentioned, with the things like the chips and so on. What I see often overlooked is also the cybersecurity aspect of like how geopolitical risk management affects it. So when these are also considered, what should be organizations keep in mind when integrating their geopolitical risk management framework, particularly for, paying attention to cybersecurity or these third-party vendor managements?
Yeah, absolutely. Cybersecurity is crucial in this age, and specifically also third-party vendor management intersects significantly with geopolitical risk management, because we know that, for example, there were some election influenced via cyber kind of attacks, and the people created kind of fake social profiles to influence election. And we know even there was, I think, in the United States, they blamed Russia for 2016 election fraud or something like this. So geopolitical tensions can escalate the risk of cyber threats, including state-sponsored attack. We know there were some many, specifically I know in the war now in Ukraine and in Russia, there are so a lot of attacks on cyberspace. So it all creates this all creates kind of instability. So a company has to approach, integrate cybersecurity and vendor management with their geopolitical risk management, maybe create specific organization that include cyber security people. So the main thing that the building resilience through incident response plans and continuous monitoring can help mitigate impact of geopolitical risk on cybersecurity and third-party relationship within the organization.
Thanks for sharing that as well. And with that, I don't really have any other topics to cover. So do you maybe have any last things that you want to share with the audience?
Yeah, I think for our audience, I would highly recommend, if they're interested in geopolitical risk and the application on the companies, check out on our site at the Global Risk Academy our new geopolitical risk course. It has been quite popular for now. We released it last month, and it was already in April. And it has been quite in good reviews. We received good reviews. And also please check our podcast, Risk Management Show. We will, of course, mention this in our podcast show notes. So we will have exact links to this contact. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you as well. Have a lovely day.
Thank you, Adrian.